T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What up?
What it do? Hermes and Hades coming through. I mean, Pika, 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 Pika. I'm a Pokemon now. An electric flying type. Angel Michael.
This has been the season that you've been talking about obsessively.
Virgo season?
Yeah, you've been like Virgo season, Virgo season, Virgo season. And I can't believe that we're already doing Virgo season.
Right here. You know what made me believer?
What?
Last year Virgo season. The way we just called that.
Yeah.
We said it was going to happen and it happened. So that let me know Virgo is more than special. Mm-hmm.
This is going to be pretty interesting now that this Virgo season, the North Node is in Taurus. And also Virgo season is going to be hosted by a Mercury retrograde in Virgo. Actually from Libra back into the sign of Virgo. Because we have all retrograde, Mercury retrogrades this year that start in air signs and they retrograde back to earth signs, which I think is kind of interesting.
That happened 2020, right? Or 2021, one of those years.
I think it was 2020.
Yeah, it was 2020. I can't wait. I mean, I've been looking forward to this because
I flat out feel like a lot of the shit, like you might actually, it's like, I feel like Virgo season is like the darkest before the dawn.
I like that, yeah.
Right? Where it's like some
the
of
reality
the craziest things that are trying to be like manipulated or concealed will get crazy before I think the retrograde back into Virgo will be like, wait, what? And it's like a lot about like fact checking.
Fact checking, yeah. Now, do you mean fact checking or like real fact checking?
Real fact checking.
Okay.
Because it's going to make some oppositions first to Neptune, then it'll go into Libra. I'm talking about Mercury. Will oppose Jupiter. Then it's going to retrograde back, oppose Jupiter again, drop back down into the opposition with Neptune. Actually, when Mercury gets into shadow, it's opposed Neptune. So it's pretty much in shadow once Virgo season starts. So you want to wrap on what you think Virgo season is about in general? I mean, obviously it's like that sixth house kind of sorting and sifting and organizing and making sense and analyzing or cleaning things up.
So definitely cleaning for sure and snooping around and if Scorpio is the detective, a lot of the discovery and analysis and what's the word that detectives do, I guess, actually investigation might actually start in Virgo, right? And so personally, I like to think of Virgo as the end of season 2, the end of summer. Season 3 and season 4 is going to be more intense than 2020 that we've seen. And I feel like Virgo season is the end of season 2 where we all come into a major twist in this narrative and story. And the thing I love about Virgo season is its 8th house of Aquarius, which, as we called last time, transforms the narrative because of facts and details that are analyzed and released. So
versus what you're hearing
versus what you're hearing, right?
Politics or on the airwaves or just among social groups and social circles.
Where Virgo's the real, actual people, the real social analysis. And, this is the last Virgo season we're going to have with Pluto and Cap. So this Virgo season is a conclusion, and then the next 2 Virgo seasons will be the conclusion of the Pisces chapter. So like the next 3-4 Virgo seasons, starting from this Virgo season, is just such an avalanche of, with Pluto ending in Cap, the completion of analysis. I feel like there are facts and details that came out 2020, 2021 that we didn't have the ability to really analyze like we will now because we've had time to see, oh, we were right, or this is really what it is. And I think it's going to really, first of all, in a cultural sense, opposite Neptune and Jupiter, take occult or metaphysical beliefs and practices like this and break through a lot of skepticism because of more evidence through case studies and just, it being in the culture. And then also, I really do believe this Virgo season is going to reveal like crucial details that will change the way people think about narratives that were sold to us since 2020. So I can't wait.
I can't take my eyes off of like the the fact that Mercury will trine Pluto and it will also trine Uranus in the North Node, but that in conjunct that it's making just prior, actually it really started during Leo season to Saturn. I can't wait also to get Mercury into a superior position, I think, to Saturn, so we can start seeing some things that are going to be manifesting a little bit better.
You mean while it trines in Libra?
Well, I think that when you see the planet on the right hand side, it's going to have more power. So I'm looking at when Mercury gets into Scorpio.
Yeah.
We have those eclipses that are going to host a ton of planets in Scorpio, which is really going to uncover and dig up all the facts, or really show you where the crisis has been going on.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that actually starts during Virgo season. So when you said Scorpio is the detective, but Virgo is the one who's actually analyzing the data, that's actually going to begin happening now during the season.
Even while Mercury's going through, right? During Leo season or during Virgo?
Yeah.
Right.
During Virgo, and then going into Libra, and then Scorpio is kind of when the bombshells are dropped.
Yeah.
I think it's also something worth mentioning, just the very beginning of Virgo season, is met with an immediate Sun square Mars. And you'll feel that the very first couple days of Virgo season.
Mars and Gemini, right? Yeah.
So these are some mutable squares. Guys, mutable energy is changeable. So
a square like that means, to me, we're changing the way we think about a lot, if not everything. But
well, think and also
act off it, right?
Yeah. Right? So it's going to be felt pretty strongly all the way up until right about here when we have that new moon that's going to be
squaring it too. Wow.
Yeah, so we're going to have a new moon that's going to be it's about 4 degrees of Virgo. I already looked at this chart.
So does that mean to you we're being told we have to do something, but the analysis of data shows us literally something different? You told us to do this, but this is what's happening.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, a new moon in Virgo with a Mercury in shadow, a sun, moon, square Mars. I mean, to me, that's the setup. And then the quincunx to Jupiter.
I was going to ask, what do you think about that? The quincunx.
I think Virgo likes to put Aries in check. I think Virgo is really quick to be hold on, let's slow down. Let's review some stuff first.
Fix their behavior routine.
It's going to be kind of hard, I think, with also just Jupiter in receiving that opposition to Mercury. There's going to be a lot of do we work together or are we working against each other? There's going to be a lot of strength in numbers. But that being a lunation that's being set up while Mercury is in shadow tells me that we're already starting to feel the effects of it. I also think just Sun and Moon square Mars just is very much Virgo getting super agitated by the erraticness of Mars and Gemini. So, just a lot of multitasking and juggling and speaking before really knowing facts and getting aggressive and argumentative. I mean, it's just... And then Mercury trine Mars, Something makes me feel there's information that's starting to spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And people are oh, did you hear about this? And then people are debating it and they're going back and forth and they're well, we need to wait on the facts to come out.
Well, would you say the facts start coming out during Virgo season? Or Scorpio?
You have to also understand that even though astrology is going to paint a picture of what's actually happening, that doesn't always mean that that's what we see.
Right, that's so
true. And I
true.
think that with Venus in opposition to Saturn, clearly there's something about the North Node that is trying to be suppressed right now.
And Neptune
so it's
opposite.
no, the stock market's fine, don't worry.
Right.
No, we're not going into a recession or a depression, don't worry. There's something going on, and I think we're going to hear a lot about just numbers and charts and graphs and things that are analytical, and that Mars and Gemini is going to basically be saying there's going to be 2 different types of statistics coming out. Whether this is about health, Virgo, or economics, Mars and Gemini, or it can be about trading, spending, traveling. I mean, it's a nightmare, honestly. It's a setup for what's going to be 2 to 4 weeks of just fucking shit. I'm not gonna candy coat that.
I love that you mentioned the opposition because Neptune opposite this, I think, helps us see through, the analysis of Virgo can help us see through what has been blocked.
If Virgo can get its time in the spotlight,
Right.
You have to understand that Neptune is what's being concealed globally, especially in regards to health and things in regards to a virus. I see Mercury in Virgo as like the actual doctors and scientists we should be listening to, but they're getting drowned out.
Right.
Right? Or it could be the economists, or it could be the financial analysis and like people who are like, guys, do you not see this? And they're like, yeah, that doesn't fit our narrative.
Exactly.
You know, so people not getting like their airtime because it doesn't go with the direction with Mars and Gemini being like, no, this is what we're talking about now. Yeah. So I think you're gonna see conflict. We also see Venus make oppositions to Saturn throughout like the 27th, the 28th. That's significant because Venus will be in a square to Uranus. So we've got that going on, but there's definitely some kind of bouncing back from or responding or reacting to some of these kind of like really unimaginable, challenges in food, in resources, in the banking system. I think it's about the health of children. I'll come out and say that. I don't want to get too much into it, but I think that Venus being in Leo is a youthful sign. I think with the oppositions to the Saturn in Aquarius and the squares to the North Node Uranus, I'm anticipating that a lot of the facts and the data and the information that's going to start being debated is about the actual effects that certain mandates have had on youth and how it's affecting their hearts and how it's affecting just them in general. And I could see Venus in opposition to Saturn as a bit of like a buzzkill that's like, oh, so we're not going back to normal? So like we're not going back to a normal work schedule? Like we can't hang out with our friends? Like, and also I think it's also going to be more about like people being freaked out about just being close and intimate. Because Venus in Leo is so close and so touchy-feely and so romantic. And Saturn in Aquarius is like, no, don't be going to house parties. Like don't rub up on people. You might get fucking monkeypox.
But what's the square to Uranus though?
It's how it's affecting things economically because they're putting that fear out there.
Oh, right. Yeah. How that engine and went with the North Node and all that. So, I mean, wow. This
is also about life, you know? It's about life because you're seeing the North Node Uranus in Taurus has been all of this like extremism about pro-life or pro-choice.
Right.
Venus can represent women coming into opposition with Saturn, squaring that. You know, some people basically being like, some really prominent people saying like, fuck the system, I'm going to donate $1 million to Planned Parenthood. Like you could see stuff like that, like celebrities doing that, or like really prominent women coming out and saying some of that stuff, who are challenging Saturn's authority. You know, that's like, I think of like Alexandra, whatever her name is, AOC, like out protesting with a bunch of other people in politics about abortion and like her apparently being arrested and handcuffed. Like, to me, that's like, yeah, you've got younger people who are women coming out and like standing for something.
Too. She was born in Libra.
She's got a lot of cardinal squares in her chart.
Oh, shit. I think she's like in the 90s or late 80s. She's around our age, actually. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, I think a huge major point of Virgo is that there's what has been analyzed, but there's the results of that. Like, the people who've been getting drowned out in their voice, a lot of what they've been saying is based off of real events that they're predicting or analyzing. I think we're going to see that start to happen. I think that's going to start to be the twist. My favorite part about Virgo season is that the Sun, Neptune, Jupiter, Moon that we had in Pisces is going to fully blossom and harvest here. So a lot of the dreams you had in March are going to be real. And I think that's going to be a huge game changer.
That's the halfway point to some of that stuff.
Yeah, for everyone. Whatever it was you planted those seeds in there and broke through Gemini, it's gonna really form before you ascend and take it to the light in Sag. So I think this could be unexpected with the Uranus trine. I don't think many of you will expect like a magic beanstalk for certain things to grow beyond your wildest imagination, true to Neptune. You know?
What do you make of the fact that Mercury, okay, so Mercury's gonna be in a trine to Mars, so I like that. Being that this is like a Mercury-related season, and Mars is the South Node, so it takes some kind of partnership or some assistance or some collaboration, mediation to be able to kind of clear out the issues from the past. But we've got both Mars degrees away from shadow, and then we've got Mercury that is about to station. So a day that I have my eye on is actually going to be right here. September 4th. So Mercury is getting ready to station retrograde, and then Mars enters shadow. That doesn't seem like a big deal.
Wait, but doesn't Mars station at like the end of Gemini?
No, the shadow starts at 8.
Oh, the shadow starts.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
So it's not stationing yet, but
Mercury
that's the shadow.
stations.
Yeah,
That's
Mercury
what you're
stationing,
saying.
but they're both in shadow and they're in a trine to each other. So to me, that's saying there's something about the Mars retrograde and also the Mercury retrograde that's about communicating and reworking like contractual agreements and ideas and like being able to sit down and like find the middle ground.
And agreements you may not know you're about to turn back on or reevaluate too. So,
which I think is the Mars retrograde in general too, because we're going to see Mars come up to some pretty gnarly aspects. I mean, even though it's going to make lots of trines in Libra season and it'll trine Saturn, that Mars square Neptune I'm not a fan of personally. Okay, so that's taking place around the 4th. Then we've got Mars is officially in shadow here, guys. We've got the Sun that's building into a trine with the North Node. Venus enters Virgo. So, I mean, that's important because the North Node is ruled by Venus. And watching Venus, I think come into a trine with the North Node, Uranus, and also Pluto could be interesting, although, I'm not a fan of Venus in Virgo. I feel like
in its fall.
Yeah, I feel like that is more so challenging for the North Node because likely whatever is changing is we're changing because we're getting results or we're getting news, things that we have to clean up, right? Things that we have to be aware of. And so we're going to see that physical change through the Earth trines, but...
Could be false results too, where you're coming into like a lot of abundance, but you later find out it's not as abundant as it looks. But I feel hopeful about it because I think that grand Earth trine will bring together a lot of harvest and abundance.
The Mercury opposed Jupiter also, it's like information about balance and assistance and law and legality. I think that's something that I would just kind of look at, like individual rights, like Jupiter and Aries.
And breakthroughs in social norms and whatever influencing like trends. Breakthrough. I think that'll be a huge period.
So then we've got Mercury that stays in that trine to Mars for a couple days, so that's nice.
What's the last major trend you heard about?
Trend?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Based on things that trend on the internet, like there's the Little Miss meme, but like what's the bigger trend that's happened?
I don't know.
All right, cool. And I think, because I don't really remember too, so I think we're on the verge of like...
Oh, you mean just like another major trend for like what people are sharing?
Like a major social media trend. But
I could see that with Jupiter in opposition to
probably
Mercury.
around the social issue or something like
social issues, relationship issues, legal issues. Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a while. It hasn't, but it has, And I mean, a lot of the trends we've had so far lasted less than a week and a half. So I think this might be a major trend with these oppositions that will kind of spill over the next 3 months. So regardless, Venus in Virgo, we know that's 9 of Pentacles in the tarot. So that could be good financially. But I would love your opinion, or I would love your wisdom on Venus square Mars. And what kind of...
I love a little Venus square Mars friction. I'm a fan. I think it can create enough like agitation or like pulling of the pigtails or like something that's going to create that friction. Like I don't mind it. Mm-hmm. Not as wild about it in mutable signs.
Right.
And you're seeing once again a theme of friction between the past and the future. So you've got Mars and Gemini that's like, yeah, I've stopped doing that. I've cut it out. Like, that's over with. We've talked about this. Mm-hmm. But then that Venus in Virgo is like, have we? Is it fixed? Like, are you really doing the work? Or are you just like all talk and no action? So there can be a sense of friction in relationships or finances or whatever because people are full of shit. They're saying things that they're not actually following up on. They're
or being able to ground, and make real and practical.
I think the Sun trine the North Node and Uranus is interesting because that does set up for some days where things are just playing out very differently. Sun trine North Node obviously is just kind of like getting all of your desires in alignment and feeling like everything is flowing. So that Sun in Virgo is like, it feels good, it's comfortable, it's clean, it's healthy. We've gotten this all kind of like worked out. The pieces are coming together, and then it's going to trine Uranus. And it's like, yeah, but, now it's different. The energy feels different. I've rearranged the living room or I've relocated. So we'll see those physical changes that will kind of materialize.
And once Venus passes over that and also trines, it's almost setting up an innovative sense of automation for those of you since Taurus season that set up new financial means of self-employment, employment. And this is where, once again, I think a major trend around this period could be financial loopholes that certain individuals kind of make relative to what's happening, whether through crypto. In fact, what do you even think about the market? Are we going to see a rise in the market or a fall during this period?
As we're filming this, it's like the 2nd or 3rd of August. I think there's definitely going to be some wild stuff that's going to happen mid-August to the end of August. Personally, I think we're going to see some breakdown. I think we're going to see more of a tumble in October of 2022. And then a final real breakdown. I think it's going to be like February through May, maybe end of April 2023. As, Jupiter comes into conjunction with the North Node in Taurus, and they start to kind of square Pluto in Aquarius. I think we start to kind of realize like it's really all breaking down spring of next year. But we're going to see, I think, a pretty significant drop in October.
So from Taurus to Scorpio, it drops. And then from Scorpio to Aries, it rises again and then drops. That's really
I don't know if
vague,
we're ever going to really see it
rise,
come back, because the eclipses that are in the fall, you've got one eclipse that's a solar eclipse in Scorpio conjunct Venus in its fall, right? And then you've also got a full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus square Saturn. More inflation, more issues with distribution, more issues with shortages, delays. It's not looking so good. It's not. The writing's going to be on the wall, and it's all happening in the midst of also like midterm elections. So I think you're going to see a lot of people campaigning on things, saying, "Oh, we're going to make changes. We're going to make changes. We're going to make changes," and then vote for me because I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. People are going to get brought in and voted in, and then we're going to find out that it's like completely counter to some of the things that they were saying.
And on that note, I really feel that. And I've heard this before, but I completely forgot. On that note, I think that everything is going to happen after these midterm elections, for sure. Like a lot of what people are planning to do now, I think they're waiting until those elections are over, and then they move forward with the next major cultural shift. I don't even know why I felt a little scared right now, but
the elections are being held on the day of the lunar eclipse, which I think is particularly interesting because that's going to be a lunar eclipse in Taurus. So we've got an exalted moon, but it's going to be conjunct Uranus and square Saturn. So I think it's like it's very clear to me that
so the solar eclipse is the new moon and the lunar is the full moon.
Yeah, it's the end of October. Yeah. Okay. And I think that we're going to be finding out that there's like an incentive to like, oh, big surprise, like want to defer people from going to the ballot boxes, wanting people to focus on being able to vote from home because we know how that goes. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I think it's weird that we've got a new moon that's square Mars in Virgo, and we've got a full moon in Pisces that's square Mars in Virgo.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Mars in Gemini. Hello. So that off the bat tells me, and it's not just because we're in a mutable season, right? Because we're going to see the same stuff going on in Sag season as well.
Right. I see what you mean.
Yeah, something's not like meshing here with that Mars in Gemini. Like almost in a way, it's like it's already bringing up the problems of what we're actually going to be dealing with, and that the problems
That's so true.
They arise more so from what we're not taking action and doing, or where we're maybe like double dealing, or there's like a sense of us like going in two directions and not.
And we have to remember this is a manifestation of the Mars-Uranus conjunction, because now it's in the second house. So everything that the Mars-Uranus conjunction activated will happen while it's in Gemini. So she's right, like all the problems will start coming up. It will split the direction. It's like a fork in the road.
Well, it's a silver lining though. I mean, you got to take the wins when you can this year, but the silver lining I think would actually be that Mars is in shadow, so it's already showing you what you're going to be working out the whole Mars retrograde, and Mercury is retrograde in a trine to Mars. So it's saying, let's go back to the table, negotiate. What can we do to kind of work this? How can we find a middle ground? I would really advise you guys that while planets are in a trine to Mars, whether that's, you know, during this retrograde or it's during like Sun in Libra period or Venus in Libra period. Like, you really want to work with those trines, and they're air trines, so you have to communicate. You have to pick up a phone, you have to write a letter, you have to text, you have to have a conversation. Like, you have to learn something. Like, there is some need to you know, connect in a more mental way, right? So we got a full moon in Pisces, relatively close to Neptune.
Yeah.
What is that, like 8 degrees?
And in proximity with the Uranus North Node, so.
Sextile the North Node Uranus, and I think the square to Mars.
That is a huge game changer, by the way, that with Mars and Gemini, it's going to change the way with that full and new moon, how we take action. And compared to when we're recording this now, there's just too much variables we're not aware of that I think with a full moon like this really changes things beyond our current perception. So it's both exciting, but it's also kind of cautionary, given that 2020 happened. So, you know, who knows what can happen next.
You guys are going to see, like, when we start to see, like, more planets come into opposition with Neptune, that we're going to realize that what we weren't entirely clear about, now we have the opportunity to get clear during the retrograde.
I love that. Yeah, that's very true.
And have more of a sense of clarity, because it'll retrograde back into Virgo.
Yeah.
And it's going to trine Pluto. So it's going to stabilize. Thank God for all the Mercury trines this year. There's going to be either like a conjunction or a trine to Pluto, which is going to be really helpful. Yeah, so we've got that full moon in Pisces. Looks like that's like around 17 degrees.
And the purpose of Virgo to Libra is you analyze and compile data. You compile and analyze data in Virgo. And then once you've mastered the analysis of it, you present it through debate in Libra. So we're having Mercury come out there. And I feel like the retrograde is, oh, we've come into new info. Now I have to reevaluate what I'm presenting, because there's a change in how we, you know what I'm saying? And to me, it's like a huge I told you so season for a lot of people.
Well, and Mercury is in opposition to Jupiter. So it can also be how other people are bringing it to our attention. That's like, hey, remember we spoke about this? Remember we talked about this? Like, you know, how can we kind of like work this out? And how are we learning more about ourselves on an individual level?
And once again, I feel like that's on all sides. Like, I feel like people who disagree with each other, like every single group will be able to say, I told you so on something. You know what I mean? But maybe one more than others. But it's going to centralize that focal point moving forward from Libra to Pisces on how we move forward. So I think, once again, like so much key, there's this, like, mutable signs are happenings. This is a huge happening. I love that, you know, especially with what you said in the previous broadcast about monkeypox and Gemini ruling monkeys. I think we can see a lot of that start to bubble up.
I think we're going to see it plain as day from the shadow starting, but also the Mars square Neptune.
Yeah.
It's literally about, you know, boils, stuff in regards to rashes, things that can be on your hands relating to monkey squared Neptune, which could be the narrative of what you're hearing on the media. And then we've got all these planets in Virgo that's like, okay, well, let me have my time to say something. So I think there's going to be a reevaluation of like statistics across the board that have not been brought to light, on top of the fact that there's going to be this like media storm and this like push to have a narrative that's like, there's the next big thing that's meant to be like scaring people. And the Mercury retrograde in opposition to Jupiter is also something I'm kind of interested in, because I feel like this can be like an overturn or a reviewing of certain agreements. This can be like legally binding agreements, relationships, but it can also be laws that are being reworked or, you know, kind of like debated about personal rights. And with the trine to Mars, I feel like it's like things that you shoot in your hand. You know, it's going to be about things that we can say, things that we can obtain, that we can hold, that kind of stuff. So I think we're going to hear more about gun control and like individual rights in relation to guns. With the trine to Mars, we start to see the sun come into an opposition with Neptune here.
I think that's a major breakthrough point. And I think relative to, once again, like especially the false narratives that have been shoved down many people's throats, I think that's going to be fully exposed with this opposition. Like clear.
It's so secretive though at a 24.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It doesn't mean it can't be exposed because the sun's
Right.
going to highlight it.
That's a Pisces degree?
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
I think the saving grace is the building trine to Pluto.
Yeah. Which is another breakthrough. That seems like consolidation to me, especially for those of you who've been wanting financial breakthrough. If we think of May to September, this is like the culmination point. And that's going to enable you from September to January to consolidate how you integrate those funds.
So then opposition's kind of like in the mix until the better part of like September 18th.
Yeah.
Then we start seeing Venus in a trine to the North Node and also Uranus. Shaking up our resources and values based off of like how we can be of better service. You know, especially with that trine coming into Pluto. So much more of a focus on like Virgo things like cleanliness, health, anything in regards to, you know, being of service. It can also be about the service industry, anything in regards to like food, beauty, that kind of stuff. And that trine in Uranus makes me feel like there's some changes going on here. You know, we're finding out that maybe there is going to be more significant health standards and requirements and, just more like control with that square to Pluto, that trine to Pluto. So Mercury keeps going retrograde. The sun is coming to the later degrees here. We have Venus in a trine to Uranus on the 20th. That'll be a day to watch too because it's reactivating that 18 degrees. Remember, we had the Mars North Node Uranus conjunction at 18 degrees. So when planets trine, oppose, square that, when they activate that, they're harmonizing. So there's probably something coming up from that just right at the tail end of Virgo season.
I think the middle to end of Virgo, so the first part of Virgo season will be pretty revelatory as far as analysis. And I think the last part of Virgo season is where we finally synthesize all of it and we start the process of understanding what it means. And I think every day coming to the end of Virgo season gets more and more intense. I would have figured that Mercury would retrograde back into Virgo during Virgo.
No, the Cazimi doesn't happen yet. And what's
Interesting
is that the sun's in a trine to Pluto, like the 19th and the 20th. But the Sun Mercury Cazimi is actually going to be happening in Libra.
Damn.
It looks like it's going to be in Libra at 0 degrees.
Yeah, that's a huge breakthrough.
That's right on my ascendant.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what's up. That's a huge epiphany, though. That's a huge, like...
Yeah, I already know what that's going to be.
Oh!
I already know the game plan for the year. I have a feeling, even though this is like dipping into Libra season, that because Mercury's going to conjunct the sun, so it's something new, right? And it's in opposition to Jupiter, so some new realization of communications and relationships. If we go a little bit further...
The new moon is opposite Jupiter, too.
Part of the Mercury retrograde is going to be when Mercury comes into conjunction with Venus. And then there's going to be a Mercury-Venus kind of thing going on here, where Mercury's going to retrograde back into Venus in a trine to Pluto. So yes, it goes into Libra season a little bit, but that's really important because that's basically saying that there's something that needs to be reviewed or reworked or healed or brought back up to the surface in order to have stronger resources, finances, health, relationships, whatever.
During the new moon, too.
During that new moon.
What's this?
Cupido.
Okay. That's just it.
Yeah.
Cupid. Weird. So, I mean, that being on the new moon could entrance and charm people, too. But I'm interested in the opposition to Juno, so stay tuned for our Libra talk, because that Libra season starts off with a huge bang, quite literally.
The oppositions to Juno?
To Jupiter.
Oh, to Jupiter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just...
Well, that's just going to be...
impactful.
That's going to impactful, or is it going to be confrontational?
Definitely.
You know, are you going to see that as like when people are like really hashing stuff out? I think there's going to be lots of like stuff going on with like legality and like lawsuits.
And after a twist of Virgo season where now we're having to process what analysis has been revealed. I think it will be confrontational, controversial.
Well, we still don't see the Venus-Neptune opposition, which is kind of interesting. We see the Venus trine Pluto, the Venus trine North Node Uranus, but Venus won't oppose Neptune until Libra season. So Libra season, Venus is the
What do you
ruler.
mean?
Venus won't
Once
oppose
it goes-
Neptune until
okay.
Libra season.
Like
So
the
that's going
beginning
to
of
pack
Libra,
a little
right?
bit more of a punch, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And that Mercury retrograde is happening ahead of Venus. So it's actually saying like partnering because of what's coming, because I think a lot of people are going to be very divided based off of some of the things that are coming out in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And it can create a lot of challenges
I love
about
that.
individual
That's very
beliefs
true.
and philosophies versus the relationships that we
Yeah.
find ourselves in, whether it's who we work with, who we're married to, our family.
Think of it as like an update of all the narratives. The division that we've had 2020, 21, it's just an update of that with new information and analysis. And I think it might be the biggest divide we've had. And I'm looking forward to it because I'm hashtag petty gang and I like to instigate conflict. And I think this type of stuff is necessary. But I mean, I think the results of that we won't see spill over until Scorpio, Sag, after the midterm elections.
For Mercury retrograde to be happening second house to Virgo during Virgo season is basically a lot of reevaluating our resources and our finances and our security, but it's in Libra. So it's how much Libra, second house to Virgo, how much do we value relationships? How much are we putting into other people? Where are we losing ourselves with that opposition to Jupiter? And are we going along with the narrative too much because we give a fuck about what other people think and we don't want any problems? Versus Mercury being in Virgo, it's going to be super analytical and about the facts. And I feel like with the trine to Pluto, it's going to be like willing to kind of go toe to toe with certain people in relationships, being like, those facts don't line up. Or,
Yeah.
you know, that might be your belief system, but that doesn't align with the facts. And, you know, real strong personal beliefs and morals and matters of integrity, I think, are going to come up. And like whether or not you're aligning with people because you always have, because it's your family, your political party, your spouse, whatever, or if you're willing to kind of go in the direction of that Jupiter retrograde and Chiron and Aries and being willing to be like the person who sticks out like a sore thumb, but at least you know that you're doing the right thing.
And the best part about Virgo season is anything you're wrong about, right? Myself included. Anything that we're wrong about, it's going to instantly be corrected. We're going to be given details with which to change our behavior and understanding of. And keep in mind that everything in Virgo season is a culmination up to the opposition to Neptune, trine to Pluto, quincunx to you know Saturn and the trine. So that sets us up to lead incrementally. Like as we get to the end of Virgo season, it will get more intense. It will get more meaningful. It will get more revelatory. So just be very keenly aware of every single receipt, detail, and puzzle piece that you're unveiling during Virgo, because I think this is the one. It could even be, I think this year, whereas Virgo season was for me last year, I think Scorpio season this year, but Virgo season is still going to lead to that.
God, Scorpio season this year, we'll take no prisoners. It's pretty fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
I've been looking at it because also in the midst of this, it's not exact, but you're gonna feel it. Like the return of the Saturn Uranus square is happening as well. So we saw that play out all throughout 2021. Where it was just this emphasis in being like, you know, how are we needing to look to the past to be able to make changes in the future? Mm-hmm. And where do we need to maintain structure and like, you know, the laws or limitations or responsibilities, and like where does it make sense to just totally kind of cut loose? So if you are somebody who is a fixed sign, if you have planets between that, you know, 17 and 20 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, you're going to feel that. And it's not exact, but it's going to be at 18 degrees and change. So that's exact enough for me to be like, yeah, September and October is that final square. We feel the heat. And who's going to pack more of a punch? You've got a kind of debilitated Uranus, and you've got a Saturn in its home sign. And Uranus is the opening square to Saturn. So I think that we're going to start to see that certain things materialized in Leo season that's projecting us forward to actually assess what has happened and then better kind of manage and deal with some of the crisis that's going to come in Scorpio season. That's inevitably going to push us forward one way or the other. You got to look at where Taurus is in your chart, because that is what is 100% going to change. You have no control over that. It's just ultimately, are you going to go with it or are you going to go against it?
Only resist it if it's worth it for you, because nothing, Taurus is stubborn for a reason. And I think with Uranus, like, there's certain things you may not comprehend yet that you will later and understand why. So in some cases, you just have to adapt and just kind of, I won't say conform, because Uranus is not about conforming. But
well, it's liberation for some people. A lot of people are going to realize in 2024 when Jupiter goes there that it's a good thing that happened. So you can get ahead of the curve now, At least that's how I'm trying to look at it, because...
So the last Jupiter Uranus we had was in Pisces. So I can't wait for that transit. This is 12 years of a conjunction. So I think that's what everything is leading up to. And that's not going to happen 2023. It's going to retrograde 2023.
It'll be spring of 2024. We're going to see Jupiter, I think, at 21. No, I think Uranus will be at 21, and I think Jupiter will be at 18. So it'll be close enough. It'll be enough for you to get it. And you're going to start actually getting it as early as next spring, because the North Node and Jupiter are going to touch in Taurus. So you're going to be learning more about the Taurus area of your life anyway, and you're going to be like, wow, there's a lot going on here, and then you really gain all of the riches and the rewards in 2024. So
it's going to be abundant. I feel like a lot of people will be like multimillionaires just like that during that cycle.
We're going to rework our belief of wealth, though. For some people, wealth is going to be having the freedom of not feeling like you have to work a soul-crushing job and being able to have health and freedom and control of your body and be able to own land and grow your own food. And for a lot of people, that's going to be freedom, because you're not trapped in a city being forced to pay crazy, like rent and not being able to afford food. And like, for a lot of people, they're going to realize that like a simpler life really does mean to be like rich,
Yeah.
I think.
I love that.
So happy birthday to our Virgos.
Yes.
Hopefully it's a good one for you guys. Let us know, where is this taking place in your chart? We'd love to hear. What do you anticipate is going to be taking place with some of these transits, with the new moon, the full moon, the oppositions, the squares? What do you think of this monkeypox thing?
And what do you think about joining level 3 on the membership? Or level 2 and level 1?
Yeah, because somebody's got to pay for these drinks while we make these podcasts for you guys.
There you go.
Like, comment, share. Sharing is caring. Join us for one of our lives so that way you guys can support the podcast. We're getting up there. I don't know where we're at. We're getting close to 100 at some point. I think in the new year we're going to be closer. But looking forward to being able to bring you guys more information on this. And stay tuned, because we're coming into eclipse season pretty soon after this. So we're going to be able to start talking about some of the eclipses. And we'll probably also do some more stuff maybe about the retrograde. So we'll do that as well.
Sounds great.
All right, guys. You guys take care. We'll see you soon.